I was married to Amanda for 7 years, built what I thought was our dream life together. Everything seemed perfect until I noticed those strange text messages on her phone. My heart raced as suspicions grew. When I finally gathered evidence of her affair, I confronted her during dinner. Her response, a cold laugh, and those words I will never forget. Women can have their cake, and eat it too. Little did she know the kind of cake I was about to serve. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that subscribe button and like this video to see how I served my wife the ultimate slice of consequences she never saw coming. I am Kelvin, a 32-year-old software engineer living in Seattle. My story with Amanda began 9 years ago when we met at University of Washington during our final year. I was the quiet computer science major who spent most of my time in the lab while she was a vibrant business student with plans to conquer the corporate world. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party where she approached me after I fixed the crashed playlist on our friend's laptop. She joked that I should be her personal IT guy, and I awkwardly replied that I would need to see her system specifications first. That terrible attempt at flirting somehow worked, and we exchanged numbers that night. Our first date was at a small coffee shop near campus. I remember how she wore a blue dress that matched her eyes and how she laughed at my nerdy jokes, even though I knew they were not that funny. We dated for 2 years, falling deeply in love despite our different personalities. She brought me out of my shell, and I gave her the stability she never admitted she craved. When I proposed on our second anniversary at the same coffee shop where we had our first date, she cried happy tears and said yes immediately. We married in a small ceremony with close friends and family, bought our first home in a nice suburban neighborhood, and settled into what I thought was a perfect life. The first 5 years of our marriage were everything I had hoped for. We both established our careers, me at a major tech company, and her at a marketing firm where she quickly rose through the ranks. We spent weekends hiking in the mountains or exploring local restaurants. We renovated our house together, arguing good-naturedly about paint colors and furniture placement. We talked about starting a family soon, and I even converted the spare bedroom into a home office that could easily become a nursery when the time came. Every night I would fall asleep next to her feeling like the luckiest man alive. The changes began so subtly that I almost did not notice them at first. About 6 months ago, Amanda started coming home later, claiming work events and networking opportunities. I supported her career ambitions completely, so I never questioned it. Then came the wardrobe changes, new hairstyle, and more attention to her appearance than usual. She said she needed to look the part for her new position, which made sense to me. What did not make sense was the sudden password changes on her phone and laptop. We had always known each other's passcodes, not because we snooped, but because we had nothing to hide. When I asked about it casually one evening, she muttered something about company security protocols and quickly changed the subject. Our intimacy decreased gradually. She was always too tired or had early meetings the next day. Our conversations became shorter, more superficial. She would ask about my day but seemed distracted when I answered. When I asked about her day, her responses were vague and brief. I tried to tell myself that this was just a phase, that all marriages go through periods of distance. I focused on being supportive and patient, believing things would return to normal soon. I cooked her favorite meals, suggested weekend getaways, and tried to reconnect, but nothing seemed to bridge the growing gap between us. The moment everything changed was on a Tuesday evening. Amanda was in the shower, and her phone left on the kitchen counter lit up with a notification. I had no intention of invading her privacy, but the preview message caught my eye. Great time last night. Same hotel Thursday, followed by a winking emoji. The sender was saved as Jackson. My stomach dropped and my hands began to shake. I wanted desperately to believe there was an innocent explanation. Perhaps a work colleague confirming a business meeting. But deep down I knew. When Amanda emerged from the shower, I casually asked if she had any work events coming up. She said no, that she would be working late in the office on Thursday to prepare for a client presentation. That night I could not sleep. I stared at the ceiling as she slept peacefully beside me, wondering how we had reached this point. The next morning I tried to confront her. I mentioned the text without admitting I had seen it, just asking if she was being honest with me about everything. She immediately became defensive, accused me of not trusting her, and suggested I was being paranoid because of my parents' divorce. She reminded me that she was not my mother who had left my father for another man when I was 14. Her reaction only intensified my suspicions, but I backed down, apologizing for doubting her. I wanted so badly to believe her, but the seed of doubt had taken root, and I knew I needed to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Over the next 2 weeks, I became the detective I never wanted to be in my own marriage. Each discovery felt like another knife in my heart, another crack in the foundation of what I thought we had built together. On a day Amanda said she was having lunch with colleagues, I drove by her office on my break and saw her car parked at an apartment complex 20 minutes away. I sat in my car, feeling numb, watching the entrance for nearly an hour before driving back to work. I began checking our credit card statements more carefully. There were charges from restaurants on nights she claimed to be working late. Twice I found hotel charges at a boutique hotel downtown. When I casually mentioned these to her, she had ready explanations. The restaurants were team dinners that her boss had reimbursed her for in cash. The hotel charges were for client meetings in their conference rooms. Her answers came too quickly, too smoothly, as if rehearsed. One evening, while she was in the kitchen, her phone rang in the living room. I heard her rush to answer it, then lower her voice and step outside onto the patio. Through the window, I could see her smiling, laughing in a way she no longer did with me. I heard fragments. "Miss you too. Cannot wait. No. He has no idea." Then terms of endearment that had once been reserved for me. The emotional toll was unbearable. I lost weight, my clothes hanging loosely on my frame. Dark circles formed under my eyes from countless sleepless nights. My performance at work suffered, with my team lead asking if everything was all right at home. I would stare at my computer screen, unable to focus on code that once provided a satisfying escape. My best friend Thomas noticed the change in me immediately when we met for our monthly beer night. I broke down after my second drink, telling him everything. He listened without judgment, then suggested I hire a private investigator. I considered it briefly but decided against it. This was something I needed to confirm myself before taking any further steps. I did, however, schedule a consultation with a divorce attorney just to understand my options. The attorney, a compassionate woman named Patricia, explained what evidence would be helpful if it came to divorce proceedings and how to protect myself financially. I hoped it would not come to that, but I needed to be prepared. The definitive proof came on a Friday evening. Amanda had told me she was having dinner with her friend Stephanie. I called Stephanie earlier that day with some made-up question about a birthday gift for Amanda, and she mentioned they had not seen each other in weeks. My suspicions confirmed, I decided to follow Amanda that evening. She drove to an upscale restaurant downtown. Through the window, I saw her sitting across from a man approximately my age, but taller, more athletic-looking. As I watched, he reached across the table and took her hand. She leaned forward, and they kissed, not the quick peck of colleagues or friends, but the lingering kiss of lovers. I took photos with my phone, my hands trembling so badly that several came out blurred. I followed them after dinner to his apartment building, watched them walk in with their arms around each other. I sat in my car for hours, alternating between rage and despair. Around midnight, I drove home and drank myself into a restless sleep on the couch. The next day, I did some research and discovered that Jackson was indeed her coworker, recently divorced himself. Through social media connections and timestamps on photos, I pieced together that their affair had been going on for at least 4 months, possibly longer. That night, alone in our home, while Amanda was supposedly at a work conference, I broke down completely. I screamed into a pillow, threw a glass against the wall, then methodically cleaned up the shards. I looked at our wedding photos still displayed on the mantel, and felt nothing but a hollow ache where love had once resided. I spent the next week planning my confrontation carefully. I knew Amanda was spending the weekend with Jackson, while telling me she was visiting her sister in Portland. I verified this lie by calling her sister on some pretense, confirming Amanda was not there. I tracked Amanda's location on our shared family account to Jackson's apartment. I struggled with my anger, my sense of betrayal. I had given her everything, had been faithful and supportive, had built my life around our partnership. How could she throw that away? What had I done wrong? These questions tormented me as I waited for the right moment to confront her. I decided to stage the confrontation at home on my terms. I prepared a special dinner, her favorite salmon with roasted vegetables and the expensive wine we saved for celebrations. I set the table with our wedding china, lit candles, and waited. Amanda returned Sunday evening, claiming she had a wonderful time with her sister. She seemed surprised by the dinner setup. "When I was so nice, did you have a good time with Susan?" I asked, referring to her sister. Amanda smiled broadly, describing a weekend of shopping and catching up. She elaborated on restaurants they visited and a movie they watched together, creating an intricate web of lies that would have been impressive if it were not so devastating. I nodded, maintaining my composure as I served dinner. We made small talk about an upcoming work project of mine. I could see her relaxing, believing that everything was normal. As we finished the main course, I refilled our wine glasses and took a deep breath. "I need to talk to you about something important," I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. Her expression shifted slightly, a flicker of wariness crossing her features before she composed herself. "Of course, honey. What is it?" she asked, the endearment sounding hollow now. "I know about Jackson," I stated, simply watching her reaction carefully. Her face registered shock for just a moment before she attempted to recover. "Who?" she asked, her voice slightly higher than normal. "Your coworker. The one you have been sleeping with for the past 4 months. The one whose apartment you just spent the weekend at, not at your sister's," I continued, still maintaining a calm tone that belied the turmoil inside me. "That is ridiculous, Kelvin." "I do not know what you are talking about," she scoffed, but I could see panic beginning to form behind her eyes. Methodically, I presented my evidence. The text messages I had seen, the hotel charges, the times her location did not match her stories, the confirmed lies about being with her sister or friends when she was with him. And finally, I placed my phone on the table, showing her the photos I had taken of them kissing at the restaurant entering his apartment building. "You have been gaslighting me for months, making me feel crazy for suspecting anything I said. I deserve the truth now, Amanda. No more lies." Her denial crumbled in stages. First came more attempts at alternative explanations. When those failed, she tried to minimize the situation. It was just physical. It did not mean anything. It was only a few times. When I presented evidence contradicting each new lie, her strategy shifted. And then something unexpected happened. She laughed. Not a nervous laugh, but a cold, dismissive sound that cut through me like winter wind. "Fine. You caught me," she said with a shrug. "You want the truth. Yes, I have been sleeping with Jackson. And yes, it has been going on for months." Her casualness stunned me more than any tearful confession would have. I had prepared for denial, for tears, for apologies, but not for this callous admission. Why was all I could manage to ask? "Because I was bored, Kelvin. Because Jackson excites me in ways you never have. Because I am still young and attractive, and I deserve to experience everything life has to offer," she said, leaning back in her chair with a strange confidence. "You are a good husband, reliable, stable, but that is not enough anymore. I thought we were happy," I said, my voice barely audible. "We talked about having children soon." She waved her hand dismissively. "We have a good setup here. A nice home, financial stability. I do care about you in my way." "But women today can have their cake and eat it too," she said with another laugh. "The days of being trapped in boring marriages are over. We can have security and excitement, the best of both worlds." I stared at her, unable to comprehend how the woman I had loved for nearly a decade could transform into this stranger before my eyes. "What exactly are you suggesting?" I asked. "We could have an open marriage," she proposed, as if offering a simple solution to a minor problem. "I keep seeing Jackson. You can see whoever you want. We maintain our home, our social status, our financial partnership. Many couples do it now." When I did not immediately respond, her tone hardened. "Or we can divorce. But I should warn you, my father's lawyer is excellent, and I will be entitled to half of everything, including your stock options from the company. With alimony, you will be paying me for years. Is that really what you want?" The threat hung in the air between us. I felt a cold rage building inside me, but I forced myself to remain calm. This was a side of Amanda I had never seen, calculating and cruel, willing to use our legal system as a weapon against me after betraying our vows. "I need time to think," I finally said. This response seemed to confuse her. She had expected either immediate capitulation or explosive anger, not this quiet contemplation. Her confidence wavered slightly. "Do not take too long," she said, standing up from the table. "The ball is in your court, but remember what is at stake." As she walked upstairs to shower, leaving me with the dinner dishes and shattered illusions, a plan began forming in my mind. If Amanda wanted cake so badly, perhaps it was time to serve her a slice she would never forget. During the next 2 weeks, I presented the facade of a man considering his limited options. I acted dejected, withdrawn, giving Amanda the impression that I was resigning myself to either accepting her affair or facing a financially devastating divorce. Meanwhile, I was methodically preparing my response. I made another appointment with Patricia, the divorce attorney, bringing all the evidence I had gathered. She confirmed what I suspected: Amanda's affair could influence the divorce proceedings in my favor, despite the no-fault laws in our state. The documentation of her lies and gaslighting would be particularly useful if she tried to claim emotional distress or abandonment. I secured copies of all our financial records highlighting my contributions to our assets. I had been the primary breadwinner throughout our marriage, with my software engineering salary substantially higher than her marketing income. Moreover, the down payment for our home had come from an inheritance from my grandmother, a fact that would be significant in property division. I transferred my portion of our joint savings into a separate account that Amanda could not access. I changed the passwords on my personal accounts and emails. I retrieved family heirlooms and irreplaceable personal items from our home when Amanda was out storing them at Thomas's place for safekeeping. All the while, Amanda seemed oblivious to my preparations, interpreting my quiet determination as defeated acceptance. She continued seeing Jackson openly now, sometimes not coming home until morning. She would offhandedly mention being with him, testing my reactions, seeming disappointed when I showed little response. I also sought emotional preparation through therapy, finding a counselor who specialized in infidelity trauma. Dr. Winters helped me process my anger and betrayal in healthy ways, preventing me from making decisions based purely on revenge. He reminded me that the best response would be one that allowed me to maintain my integrity while standing up for myself. With my legal and emotional foundations secure, I developed what I called the cake plan. I ordered a custom cake from a bakery across town where Amanda had no connections. The cake was to be decorated with edible printed images of the photos I had taken of her and Jackson, arranged in a timeline of her betrayal. The bakery owner was hesitant until I explained the situation. She had been cheated on herself and agreed to take on the unusual request. Next, I contacted Amanda's parents' siblings and closest friends, inviting them to a surprise anniversary dinner at our home. It was not our anniversary, but I knew none of them would check. I told them I wanted to celebrate our marriage with the people who meant the most to Amanda. They were all delighted, especially her parents, who had always adored me. I set up recording devices in the common areas of our home, which was legal in our state. I wanted to document Amanda's reaction and ensure she could not later twist the narrative of what happened. The evening of the dinner party arrived. Amanda was out with Jackson, but had promised to be home by 7 for what she thought was just a dinner with me to discuss our marriage arrangement. I had told her I had made my decision and wanted to talk it through over a nice meal. She had seemed pleased, obviously, expecting me to capitulate to her demands. Her family and friends arrived at 6:30. I welcomed them warmly, explaining that Amanda would be arriving soon and would be completely surprised. I had prepared a buffet of her favorite foods and opened several bottles of wine. The cake, the centerpiece of my plan, was hidden in the refrigerator for the perfect moment. When Amanda walked through the door at 7:15, the look of shock on her face was indescribable. She froze in the entryway, staring at her parents, her sister, her college roommate, and several other close friends all gathered in our living room. For once, she was speechless. "Surprise!" I exclaimed, putting my arm around her stiffly shoulder. I wanted to celebrate our marriage with everyone who matters to us. Her wide eyes turned to me, filled with confusion and the dawning realization that something was very wrong. I could almost see her mind racing, trying to understand my strategy and formulate a response. I gave her no time to recover. I raised my glass, asking everyone to join me in the dining room for a toast. As our guests settled around the table, I stood at the head, Amanda rigid beside me. "I want to thank you all for coming tonight," I began. "Marriage is a sacred commitment built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. When those foundations are broken, we must make difficult choices about how to move forward." Amanda tugged at my sleeve, whispering urgently, "What are you doing?" I ignored her, continuing my speech. Recently, Amanda shared some interesting philosophy with me. She told me that in modern marriages, women can have their cake and eat it too. I found that perspective fascinating. I walked to the refrigerator and returned with the cake, placing it at the center of the table. As our guests leaned forward to see the decorations, gasps and murmurs spread around the table. The photos were unmistakable, showing Amanda and Jackson in various romantic encounters, all time stamped and dated. Amanda turned pale, then flushed with anger. "How dare you?" she hissed. "I have simply taken your philosophy to heart," I replied calmly. "If you can have your cake, I can serve it." I then played the recording of our confrontation dinner, including her cold laugh and her exact words about having her cake and eating it too, her threats about taking me for everything in a divorce, and her casual dismissal of our marriage. Vows. As the recording ended, the silence in the room was deafening. Her mother was crying quietly. Her father looked both angry and deeply disappointed. Her friends stared at their plates, unable to meet her eyes. "I have filed for divorce," I announced, removing the papers from an envelope and placing them beside the cake. "I believe in consequences for actions." I believe in honesty. And I believe that no one, regardless of gender, has the right to betray the trust of someone who loves them. The doorbell rang at that moment. With perfect dramatic timing that I could never have planned, Jackson stood at the door. He had apparently come to pick up Amanda for a late rendezvous. I invited him in, politely watching as he registered the gathered crowd and the obvious tension. "Your timing is perfect," I told him. "We were just serving cake. Would you like a piece?" I did not wait for his response. I picked up my pre-packed bags from the hall closet, nodded respectfully to Amanda's parents, and walked out the front door. As I drove away, I could hear Amanda calling my name, her voice now filled with panic rather than confidence. I spent that night at Thomas's apartment turning off my phone as Amanda's calls and texts multiplied. In the morning, I checked my messages briefly. There were tearful apologies, angry accusations, desperate pleas to talk. I responded with a single text. "Please communicate through my attorney from now on." Then I blocked her number. The divorce process was surprisingly straightforward after that. Amanda's threats of taking everything dissolved when she realized how thoroughly I had documented her affair and her attempted manipulation. Her father, a traditional man who had always emphasized integrity, refused to pay for her high-priced attorney after hearing the recording of her callous words. We settled with me keeping the house and most of our assets, while she received a fair but not excessive settlement that reflected her actual contributions to our marriage. The hardest part was not the legal proceedings, but the emotional aftermath. Despite everything, I had loved Amanda deeply. I struggled with questions that had no satisfying answers. Had she ever truly loved me? Were there signs I should have seen earlier? Could I have done something differently to prevent this outcome? Therapy helped, but the healing was a slow, uneven process. Gradually, I rebuilt my life. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during my marriage. I focused on work, earning a promotion by channeling my energy into innovative projects. I started running again, a hobby Amanda had subtly discouraged, eventually completing a half marathon. I redecorated my house, removing the constant reminders of our shared life. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Amanda at a grocery store. She looked thinner, tired, her usual polished appearance somewhat dimmed. I learned through mutual friends that Jackson had ended their relationship shortly after the cake incident, apparently uncomfortable with the intensity of the situation. She had been struggling professionally as well, having lost the respect of several colleagues who had connections to our social circle. That brief encounter crystallized an important realization for me. Serving her cake had not been about revenge, but about self-respect, about standing up for myself and my values in a way that was firm but not cruel, about refusing to be manipulated or devalued by someone who had promised to honor me. A year after discovering Amanda's betrayal, I can honestly say I am in a better place. The experience painful, as it was taught me invaluable lessons about resilience, self-worth, and the courage to enforce boundaries. I am dating again now, carefully, and with better awareness of what healthy partnership looks like. I still believe in love and commitment, but now I understand that these must be paired with self-respect and clear-eyed assessment of actions, not just words or promises. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do when someone tries to have their cake and eat it too is to calmly, deliberately serve them a slice of consequences along with it. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a relationship? What was your cake-serving moment? Comment below with your stories of maintaining dignity in difficult situations. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, your self-respect is always worth fighting for. Thank you for listening, and I hope that whatever challenges you are facing, you find the strength to honor your own worth.